Ellen Sills when she was a little girl. So these are probably late 40s dresses. Emma's dress has matching pants. Katrina's dress is beautifully smocked, and the great detail in the smocking. And these sorts of dresses are still worn on special occasions by girls today. Thank you. Now, their mother, Marilyn, is wearing a 1952 Hebe Sport of London suit. This was Marjorie Walker's going away suit. And it's a beautifully made suit. Notice the vertical lines in the skirt with the box pleats, the horizontal lines in the jacket. And what really impressed me is the binding on the jacket and around the cuffs. The binding isn't attached to the suit, it's actually part of the weaving of the material. It's a lovely suit. We're moving back in time to the year 1950. This dress that Angela Richmond is wearing is actually made of raffia. And interestingly enough, it washes. It belonged to Ruth Miller. Ruth bought it on her honeymoon in Bermuda in 1950, and it's still in beautiful condition. This dress could go to make a smash at a summer party in 2013. Nurses' uniforms. They are very different from what's being worn today, with the stiffly starched aprons, many buttoned uniforms under the starched aprons, the little caps. Leslie is obviously the registered nurse because she's the only one that actually has a black ribbon on her. I think they're probably missing white collars that they would starch and then pin to their uniforms. These uniforms were a very interesting find. They belonged to a woman called Linda Black in Point Alexander, and she was a nurse in Sweden, and she brought her uniforms with her to Canada, and when she died and her house was cleaned out, there they were, found in her wardrobe somewhere. So, what nurses were very recognizable. Angela. And interestingly enough, this is also a Prairie's graduation dress. In fact, a Manitoba graduation dress. It belonged to Colleen Archer's sister, and she wore this dress to her graduation in 1964. Notice how the dresses are changing just a little bit from the late 50s to 1964, but still the full skirt and the very youthful, charming look. Angela is also wearing dyed satin shoes with incredibly pointed toes that were also characteristic of that era. How we killed our feet in those days. Angela looks stunning, another girl who can wear a sheath. And this simple black sheath, but just with a little interest at the neck and metallic thread shot through it to give it a little bit of excitement, actually belongs to the Deep River Players. Although I wouldn't be surprised if Angela might run off with it. Katrina is wearing a sort of country pioneer type dress that one of the flower children would have worn in the 60s, but also children are wearing today. She's also wearing a stole that belonged to Ruth Miller. And her mother is also in her hippie peasant dress, her charming dress. The smocking on the bodice of this dress is beautifully done and gives the dress its shape and I think this is a sort of dress that could be worn today very, very comfortably. The little tucks on the skirt, too, add delightful detail to it. This is another June McDonald dress, and it's available for sale.
What's the age of that?
It's a mid-60s. 70s evening dress, more demure and charming, and a little more modest with the shawl top. And yet, if you took the shawl top off, you would notice the very attractive lace shoulders on this sweetheart neckline, graceful, flowing pink dress that Angela is wearing. This dress belonged to Kay Odette. But we did find her one of Miss Sluter's ballet costumes from the late 70s. Mothers labored over their children's ballet dresses for the ballet recital at the end of the season. And this was a Raggedy Ann dance that my daughter actually was in. And Chloe is Marilyn Grineval's mother got married. And she chose to wear what is almost a tea gown from an earlier period. This charming écru dress that Angela is wearing with her handsome groom. Notice the delicate floral embroidery on the net skirt, the sweetheart neckline, the almost Jane Austen bodice style. A very charming wedding dress that Marilyn also wore at her wedding in the 1960s. And Marilyn has said this dress may be for sale. Goodness knows what Angela will wear for her. Our next bride is wearing a 1945 wedding dress. The groom is a bit of a bigamist. This lovely satin dress was made by Nancy Haller's mother. She made her own wedding dress. Grecian sort of drapery over the bodice, lovely, lovely tucks, and the pearls that Kendra is wearing were actually the pearls that Mr. Haller gave to his bride as a wedding present. And in the box with the pearls was the price. $17.50. Veil and pillbox hat that Kendra was wearing actually belonged to Ruth Miller's wedding dress, but the wedding dress was no longer around. And our next bride is wearing a 1952 wedding dress. This dress belonged to Dorothy Ross, who has just celebrated her 60th wedding anniversary. Natalia looked very, very bride-like in this full net skirt with the apron lace top, the charming neckline, and the thousands of buttons to be done up down the back. The little diadem that she's wearing with the wedding dress was actually Dorothy's wedding headdress, too. And we move from 1952 wedding dress to December the 21st, 1963, and Leslie, with a surprisingly familiar looking groom, is wearing my wedding dress. by a dressmaker in Preston, Ontario, now part of Cambridge. And because it was a Christmas wedding, she did a sort of poinsettia applique on the skirt and also on the headdress. I think the dress cost about $70. And I'm trying to remember whether that included the material or just the dressmaker. And in 6 years, there is a great change in style in wedding dresses. Our final bride of the afternoon, with a somewhat incestuous groom, is wearing Geraldine Jones's 1969 wedding dress, a Mary Quant style dress, and this dress was recently shown as a vintage dress and worn by Megan Jones in Canadian Living magazine showing vintage dresses. So it is quite a famous dress. We have a future bride leading the way.